Hello all, Jamie Rodgers here from Creative Expressions, and today I wanted to share with you a top tip. Now this is all about creating box frames from dies that do not have attached outside edges. So maybe they're separate edges, or maybe they're just ones that don't come with edges. Today we're going to be focusing on, in this demo, my butterfly frame in the square design. As you can see in the middle, I also do a circle, but today this technique is all about the square. Now, although we're going to be focusing on this design, it doesn't have to be this frame, it doesn't have to be this die. It could be many others which don't have an attached outside edge to them. Now by that and a couple of other options, maybe you're looking at my oval love heart frame. This one has separate outside edges, so nothing attached to the outside. Also has separate inside edges, so you could cut that open and put something inside there if you wish. This would work just as well and would work on the same measurements as I'm going to be sharing with you today. And then you could treat it as a landscape or a portrait, whichever you prefer. The same can be said for my butterfly frame. This is the butterfly and flower frame. And again, no attached inside or outside edge, so could work in exactly the same way as what we're going to be doing today with this one. Same idea could also be said for one like this one, which is my Moroccan lace dragonfly frame. Again, no attached inside edge, no attached outside edge, but we do have separate edges to go onto those if you would like to. So again, if you'd like to raise this one up on a box format, you could do the same. Hopefully by now though, you're getting the idea that any die that doesn't have an outside attachment to it could be used. Even if it wasn't a square design, it could be a circle and you could do the same idea with it if you wish to. But I'm not going to lie, a square will make it easier. So then what we need to do is we need to cut our frame. Now I'm going to choose to use just the first inside edge from my set of frames. And we'll come back to these in a little while and talk more about them. But the actual die set we're going to be using is this one here. And as I mentioned, this is my butterfly square frame set. Now with this set, we have the separate outside edge. Now we don't need that yet. We'll come back to that later on, maybe. We then need this part. Now this is our filigree part. This is the part that's going to cut in, give us that really lacy effect. Now if we cut this as we see it, the middle is also going to remain solid because there's no edge in there. But of course, within the set, we have that edge. So we're going to be using this one and this one. So sort of if you're counting down from your die set, the second one and the third one. Now we could, again, to give you more options, you could use this one and add that into the middle, obviously without using this outside edge, and that would then cut you a double butterfly filigree panel. And again, you could then choose to use the part in the middle to cut that out, or leave that as a solid. So many options with these, and this is what I love about giving you dies with so many different inside and outside edges. It's down to how you wish to cut them. So then let's send this through the machines out, shall we? So I've got a piece of 8x8 card here, and I've just trimmed that down from an A4. So, and it doesn't have to be that big, and we're going to cut this about shortly anyway. So again, certainly doesn't have to be this large. We're then going to take the die and we're going to roughly place it in the middle. I'm not somebody who measures particularly, especially at this stage. If you wanted to make it equal for any reason, if you want the sides to be deeper, then you absolutely could measure that and make that work. But for me, by eye is fine. I'm then going to take the inside die, and again, I'm placing that down. Now with this machine, I know I can cut directly into the magnetic sheet and it won't cause a problem. But if you do, of course, have one where you would cut a magnet out of it, then tape them down to the card and put them the other way up. I'm going to put the top onto the plate sandwich. I'm going to send that through the machine. Now once that's gone through, we can take away the top part, we can take out our filigree panel, and we can take out our middle point. Brilliant. We can just tease this one away. Come away. There we go. We can remove that part from across the top. Now if I could find my pokey tool, I will then poke out all of these little pieces which need to be removed with that. But as I seem to have left that downstairs, we'll go with it. But I think we're okay. I think they've all come out anyway. So there we go, we have our filigree panel cut in place, and this is the important bit. That stayed attached to the card, and we can now work with it as we see it. So we're going to take a scoreboard. Now I'm using a really old scoreboard. I know these aren't even manufactured anymore, but it's one of my favourites, and I think the colour helps you see what I'm doing. So what I'm doing is I'm going to take the inside edge of the frame, and I'm putting that just against, and it could be any score line, but just against the score line, just so I can see that I'm equal, I'm level, and it don't matter which one we go for. From this point, I can then look at where the next score line beyond the border of the die cut is going to be. Now, if I wanted to have a wider frame, I could go to the 5-inch bit, but that wouldn't leave us much for our sort of fold round element. So I'm going to go for the 4.5 line here, and that's going to come down just beyond the frame of the border. Then we're going to twist it, and we're going to do exactly the same again. So we'll stick to the same line just to keep it nice and simple, and we're going to go down that one. We're going to twist again, and I think we was, oh, where were we? That one, weren't we? Just so it stays the same. Doesn't matter if you're doing this, and as long as you see that you're just staying to that outside edge is all that matters. And then we'll place that one on, and we're going to go down that one as well. Now what you can see we have done here is we have created a frame going around this part. Now if you wanted to turn this into a box, you could easily just, I will call this plant potting, but cut this into a tab, fold that round, and you've got the lid to a box. But we don't want to do that. We don't want a box or a lid to a box, because there'd be no way to glue it down onto our project. So we need more score lines so it can actually stay in place. So again, you could have done this when you did your first set of scores, but I wanted to show you it in each stage. So from here, we're going to score the next 1/2 inch. Now again, it doesn't matter where we put it. It's not on measurement. We're not working flat against the edge here. It's just 1/2 inch down from that original scar line, And then we're going to score again on the next line down. So within that inch, you're going to have 3 lines. The first one close to the edge of the actual die cut, and then our next 2. Now this part here, that doesn't matter how big or small that is, because we don't need it. So this little sort of 1/4 inch piece, that's not needed. We can leave it in place, but it's not important. So if you wanted to cut your die or cut your card down before you cut it, or if your die is slightly larger than the one I'm working with, it wouldn't make the end of the world. It just means that we need these 2 1/2 inch panels on these sides, and it all will come clear. So we're then going to turn it, and we're going to do exactly the same again. So just 2 score lines, filling out that inch. So we've got the same 3 lines on this side. We're going to twist it again, and we're going to put them same lines in coming down this side as well. And then lastly, we're going to do the same on the last side. So that we now have, basically, in each corner, you will see 9 blocks. And we've got sort of those 5 around the edge, which really aren't important at all. And it's these 4 that we're going to focus in on. So to begin with, we're going to pick any corner. It doesn't matter. They're all going to be exactly the same. We're going to trim up to that point. So we've trimmed on to the first 2, and we're going to cut them out because we do not need them. We're then going to remove the next 2 down. So if you look at the side of your card, we've created like this M or W, depending on what way you look at it, or a little set of stairs, however you like to picture this. But basically we want 1 cube left attached in each corner, on that corner, and everything else can be cut away. So I'm going to do that on all of the sides, because I think sometimes it's easier to see it come together in a smaller format, or a step-by-step format. And it doesn't matter if your cutting isn't exact, you're not going to see these bits. Everything we're working on at the moment is going to be tucked behind the panel or on the sides. So again, exactly the same on this one. Take out them excess areas, take out these bits here. We can trim that one away as well. Then we're going to turn, and we're going to repeat again. So across there, taking out them 6, and then up there, taking out them 2. Now, what that's leaving us with, and let's get rid of this board so you might be able to see it slightly easier. So we've now got that sort of step set on each side, and we've got this 1 cube in each of the 4 corners. This is the important bit. That's the one we don't want to cut away. We've got to keep it, but we need to turn it into a tab to make the side walls to our box. So I'm going to cut one side of it, so that we now have a little freestanding tab. Now it's always easier with a tab, and it's not vital, but if we do what we class as plant potting it, which means we cut away a small sliver from each side, so that instead of having that little square, we now have what looks a little bit like a plant pot. Now it's up to you. You can do these so that they run top and bottom. So we'll do that on this side so you can see what I mean. So we can have them so each one is sort of running opposite. That's fine. You can do it that way if you want to. Or we can do them so go round clockwise or anti-clockwise. It really doesn't matter. Basically, in truth, all we need to do is make sure that we have a tab on each side. So we'll carry on with the clockwise or the anti-clockwise formula on this one and trim that one off. And now you can see we have our tabs on all sides. So this is now ready to be built. So we're going to flip it over. So we're looking at the reverse of it, and we're going to go in against these score lines. Bring back your burnishing tool or your score tool and work across those lines. This one at the edge here, we don't need this. We could actually trim that away if we wanted to. So if you can see that extra score line, it's only these first two pieces we need. That excess can stay, it's not a problem, but if you want to get rid of it, you can trim it off. But you won't see it, so it doesn't really matter. We're going to continue doing this on all four sides. So just them first two score lines towards the middle of the frame. We're going to bend that one up, and we're going to repeat exactly the same. Now, if you're familiar with my canvas dies, we have literally taken this die and turned it into a canvas. And by that, I mean a 3D box that we can put on the front of a project. And it was only, well, last night in my world, that I laid in bed and thought, why on earth have I never done this with my sort of dies which stay within the card? Because we could make these in large formats and then we can sink things inside them, and that was sort of where the idea come from. Now the eagle-eyed amongst you may have already spotted that the side and the height is all up to you. Now I scored mine at 1/2 inch, didn't I, on each side. If you had a larger piece of card, which bearing in mind we was at 8 inches, so with this die you might not fit it through your machine depending on your machine. But if you had larger card for a smaller die, then you could have a wider wall at the side, so you've got more depth to build into. So maybe you want to put a 3D flower display in there or something similar to that, or something that hangs and spins. Or maybe you want to put some acetate in this before we glue it together and turn this into a little shaker box. The options really are endless, and each of the changes could easily be made. If you're somebody who's watching thinking, well, that's going to be quite a bit to post, then cut this down to 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch, sorry, or maybe 1/2 centimetre. The box depth is completely up to you. This is just a concept I'm trying to share with you at the moment. Now we're going to go in and we're going to add some glue onto our tabs or our plant pots, depending on what you know them as. We're going to work around and we're going to set our glue onto each of these to begin with. And it never hurts to put a bit of glue, especially with our dry as clear glue, on early, because it will start to set and activate, and that's a good thing. So we're going to fold up these top pieces out of the way as we work round and glue that in place. So I'm just bringing that together to create the side of our box. And we're just going to make sure that's nice and neat, and when we feel we can move on to the next one, we're going to move round to the next one. Now if you've got our little mini pegs, they are great because you can put them in place and it gives you a little bit of time to work on it and carry on round. But I forgot to bring my pegs. Well, actually, being honest, I've lost them. I've got them in a little tub somewhere, and do you think I can find them? No idea where they've gone. Between my TV tub, my at-home studio and my craft room, them pegs could be anywhere. Honestly, anywhere. So I've decided that we're going to wing it and we're going to hold instead. So we're going to hold them sides down. Now, we've started to get to the point of our box. Now, obviously, if we wanted to turn this into a shaker card, we'd need to put some acetate or maybe a vellum, something similar inside the box, down on the back of the die cut to protect the things falling out the front. If you don't wish to do that and you want to leave it as an open box so you can put things into it, we need to start thinking about what we're going to use as the back into our box. Now, I mentioned these outside edges. Now, don't forget we have our die, we then have our outside edge. Now, obviously, we're working with a square, so if your die set doesn't come with an outside edge, cut one on a trimmer. It's not the end of the world. But because of this one has its own outside edge, we're going to cut that from a piece of card as well. Just so you can see that's what we need to fit in there. So onto my plate again. little bit of card on the top here, and we're going to send that through. So here we have our square that we need, cut out from that die. Now before we glue over the top of the box, it's a good idea to take this piece of card and just drop it inside there. We're not going to glue it yet, it's just going to stay down there. Now these top parts, these are the parts we're going to bring over and we're going to add some glue onto. So lift these bits out of the way for the second, and this is why I said it doesn't matter if we've got that end tab or not, because we're going to add some glue onto here and we're going to bring that down and make sure that that sits in place and glues to the back of our frame. And this is why this is a good idea for shaker boxes, because there's really nowhere for that to actually escape. So a little bit of glue on this side and a little bit on that side as well, and we can then bring these two over and we can make sure that they're nice and in place and firm. Now that will complete our actual box construction as such. We've got our sides done, we've got our box, that's ready to go, but obviously that bit in the middle is still free. So my tip for this is turn this over, let that fall to the front, bring in your glue and just draw a line under the edge. Anywhere under the edge is fine, just draw that line down there and then simply flip the box over. From here, take something, maybe it's a score tool, maybe it's a embossing tool, anything like that, even the edge of your scissors, and just take this and run it around the inside of the box. And there you have it. You have created your own 3D box out of one of your dies. Very easily, very simply, all just by doing a little bit of scoring and a little bit of building. And again, now it's up to you how you choose to decorate it. So maybe like this one, you want to go for a white work card. That'd be a lovely idea. Or maybe you'd like to start sinking in to the middle a bit of colour and a few different ideas. So this time I've used some of our Wisteria Foundations cardstock. I've cut that die in the middle out of that and put it in there, and then I've added on a circle in the middle which is from the circular frame, and I've also added around the edges here, including a little gem that wants to come away with me. I've used some of my daisy blossom die cuts. I've also used my cherry blossom dies for the flowers, and I've also used the little middle bit from in with the frames as well, and one of Sue Wilson's little birthday balloon strings to finish this one. Maybe you prefer to go a little bit darker in your tones. So this one is actually done with some of my gilding polishes. Again, just Cosmic Shimmer metallic gilding polishes. And I've blended a purple and a blue together over the butterfly. And I've used the blue on top of the cherry blossom flowers on the side here. I've brought in a little sentiment. I've brought in a little sentiment tab. And in the background here, you might just see that I've got my Moroccan lace background die also layered on top of some white card, just so it looks like an embossed panel. Now, as I mentioned, these other dies that we were talking about would also work really nicely to create this effect as well. So don't just feel you can just use this one. There are lots of options, and you will see cards created with these frames appearing on my Facebook page very soon, which is Jamie Rodgers Crafts. If you haven't already found it and liked it, please do. And if you create one of these frames with one of my dies, I would love to see what you do with it, how you decorate it, and where you take it from here. Maybe you're going to go for the smaller sizes. Maybe you want to make smaller little boxes. Maybe that's a bit too big. Maybe you want to put that one in there as well. Maybe you want to sink that one down inside. Maybe you want to cut that out and put colour under it. I would love to see what you create. So please don't forget to share them with us on our closed Facebook group, which I can never remember the name of, but it's either Create with Jamie Rodgers and Craftmania or Create with Craftmania and Jamie Rodgers. But search for me on Facebook. You'll find it, I'm sure. But do drop in there and share with us some photos of what you've been up to. Now, all of the products I've been talking about today, all of these dies, the card, everything we've been talking about is of course available from all good creative expression stockists worldwide. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you very soon with another new video. Bye for now.